maximum strength, be at your peak potential, be at your peak performance. So this is what I mean by maximum inner growth. Isn't that exciting?
Yes.
Yeah. So the third thing is the Enneagram helps you to build a very, very powerful team, because by understanding all the 9 personality types, you will be able to select the right people to go into your team, the core team, the right people. So you will know, okay, which personality or which member in the Enneagram am I missing in the team? How do I make sure I get this person to come in so that my team becomes very powerful, very resourceful? So the Enneagram, when you fully understand the depth of it, you are able to build a very, very powerful team globally. And the last part is the Enneagram. Dwight was saying that we all have a little bit of all the 9 personality types. Now, when you look at your own detailed Enneagram report, you will be able to see how you can actually develop yourself in a very balanced and very holistic growth, which means you can actually use the Enneagram to develop yourself in a very balanced personality. So this is for you to go on the really holistic and balanced development of yourself. So these are all the benefits and all the advantages of really understanding the Enneagram and applying that into your life every day. This is something that is really cute. It's at the dinner table. I find this cartoon so entertaining. What each of these 9 types would actually behave at the same dinner table. So I would like all of you to take a look at each of these 9 types and see whether you can relate to any one of them. So this is what a type 1 at the dinner table would say. There are not enough food groups represented here. Why? Not good enough, right? So the type 2 would say this. It feels so great to feel needed. Okay, this is what the type 2 always think. What about the 3? The 3 would say this, I need to eat and run, I'm swamped. Because type 3 are always very busy. They have got a lot of things that they want to achieve and do in their lives. The type 4 will be looking at this dinner table and would say, cheap caviar, shocking. Any of your friends that you can think of who would say something like that? What about the type 5? The type 5 would say this, it's a talkative group. Good, that gets me off the hook. What about the 6? Now the 6 will be saying or thinking about this. She's leaving early. Doesn't she like us? There are a lot of inner chatter in the type 6. What about the 7? 7 would say this. First, I'll eat. Then I'll take some pictures. Then I'll go to my class. And then they have got a lot of things that they want to do. So later on, you'll be able to learn how is the type 7 different from the type 3. Because type 3 seems to be very busy, right? Type 7 also seems to be very busy, but there is a difference, right? Type 8. Type 8 will say this, pass it down, pass it all down here. They are these powerful people. What about the 9? The 9 will say this, I feel so close to everybody. So this is just how all the 9 types would behave or think at the same dinner table. Isn't life just like that? The same incident that has happened, and yet different people react differently to the same incident. Why? That is because we all have a different core personality. So this is going to help you to understand how to deal with people, how to manage relationships with people, how to deal with different people's reactions and emotions within your team. Even if it's just the same trigger or the same event. But different people will react differently within your team, and by understanding about the Enneagram, you will be able to deal with all the different reactions. Doesn't that make you a very powerful person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Personally, I cannot thank Enneagram enough. When I learned about the Enneagram, and I use it every day for numerous times in all the relationships that I'm dealing with every single day. And every single time, I'm able to understand why this person behaved like that. Why this person said that word. Why did this person reacted like this? And it just helps me over and over and over again so many times how to deal with that relationship. And I began to have this inner peace and this emotional control over myself. And this is the biggest power that Enneagram can do for all of you. So are we all ready to start?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this is the Enneagram type 1. So they are known as the reformer. Reformer. Why? Because this type 1, they are very principled people. They have got this set of values and principles and beliefs, and they want everything to be done according to their values and principles. So the type 1, they are very visionary. They know how certain things should be done in a certain way. They have got this very high set of beliefs and values and principles, and they want everything to fall and to adhere and to comply with their set of principles and their beliefs. So they have a rather fixed way of how things should be done. And so they always want things to follow exactly how they want certain way, how they want things to be done in a certain way. So they are like perfectionists. Look at this lady, what do you think she's doing? She's cutting grass, but is she using a lawnmower to cut the grass? No, she's using scissors, and then she's going all the way down to the same level as the grass to cut every single blade of grass to make sure that they're of the same height. Wow. Wow. I've never seen a better perfectionist. So this is how a type 1 would be. This is how a type 1 behave. Now, that is type 1 at their best. They are very visionary. You want them in your team because they have a very clear vision of how they want the Life Max business to be. They are very clear in terms of how this Life Max business is able to help them to achieve the kind of dream lifestyle that they want, their goals and their dreams in life. So that is when a type 1 is at their best. And a type 1 also has a very high standard of how things should be done. So when you entrust a certain task to an Enneagram type 1, you can have absolute faith in them that they will accomplish this task with the highest standard, with the highest level of quality of work. Now what happens? What happens with this Enneagram type 1? Moves down the elevator and they are no longer on the resourceful side. They've gone to the medium or maybe all the way to the basement. What happens? Their behaviors begin to change and shift, and we have to learn about the good, the bad, and the ugly side of all the 9 types. So what happens when type 1 moves a little bit down and they're no longer at their best? So this is how all the type 1s will behave, because they have got this very high standards, high principles and high set of values about how things should be done. So when things do not fall into their values, do not fall into their principles, there's this perfect system how they want things to be done, they become very rigid. They become very tense. Why is this thing not done the way I want it to be done? So they get very, very tense. So they get rigid, and then they get easily irritated because things are no longer perfect. Things are no longer the same as how I want things to be done. So they get easily irritated. So how do you recognize a type 1? When they get easily irritated, they go into a temper, they become very temperamental. So you will see a type 1 having very jerky actions. So they knock into things, they get hurt, they injure themselves. If you put a chair in the middle of the pathway, they must knock into it. Because, why? They are so tensed. When somebody is very tense, they are no longer fluid. So if they are tense with all of this pent-up frustration inside them, a little bit of trigger would cause them to lose temper. So you see a medium or a non-resourceful or non-healthy type 1 going into a temper very often. They get very rigid, they get very tensed. Why? Because their high level of standards is not being met. So this is how a type 1 would behave when they are no longer healthy or resourceful. So an example of a healthy type 1, Gandhi. He's very healthy, he's very resourceful. You don't see him having temperament or going to a temper, but he has this vision about how the world should be, and he's able to pursue his cause and his vision in a very calm manner. So he's a very healthy and resourceful type 1. So this is what Gandhi says. Be the change you want to see in this world. So this is a type 1. So as I go down the list of each of these types, are you able to write down some of these people in your lives who falls under the category of type 1? Okay, then you will be able to understand these people in your life very well. Okay, let's go on to type 2. Type 2, they are known as the helper. They are very caring, loving, and pleasing people at their best. Type 2 love to fulfill another person's needs. Now this is how a type 2 think of themselves as significant. All of us want people to think of us as significant and important in their lives, correct? Do you want that?
Yes.
Yes. So this is how a type 2 think of themselves as having that sense of significance. So their sense of significance is how much they can fulfill your needs. And they pride themselves, they love fulfilling everybody's individual needs because they are such loving people. Now for example, if I am a type 2, I can come into this room and I can ask everybody, would you like some coffee or tea? And this type 2 will be able to remember everybody's specific needs of how you want your coffee to be done. Without sugar, without milk. Yama doesn't drink tea and coffee, he only drinks water. And then you only take coffee black without milk, without sugar. So this type 2 will be able to remember everybody's specific needs of how you want your coffee or tea or no coffee or tea at all. So they are able to pride themselves to be able to fulfill every single person's individual needs. Because when they can do that, this is how they can feel that they are important or significant in your life. What happens if a type 2, so loving and so caring, and they just have this excellent relationships with everybody around, what happens if they move down the elevator? Oh, how bad or how ugly can they get? So, when a type 2 goes down, they begin to get very possessive. They begin to feel that they are unappreciated. So if they feel they're unappreciated, they may become very sad or angry. So this is how you would hear a type 2 would sometimes say to people, you know, after all the things I've done for you, is this how you treat me? You don't even appreciate me at all. Isn't that familiar? So this is how a type 2 will feel, because why? They have dedicated their life and their time and their effort to serving your needs. And then when you tell them, yeah, you know, I don't really need that cup of coffee at this point of time. But the thing is, when you say that you don't need that cup of coffee, to a type 2, that would mean you are taking away their sense of significance because you are no longer needing this type 2. So this is when the type 2 begin to lose their sense of significance because they want to feel needed. So if you say you don't need them, this is very bad news for them. What do you mean you don't need me? You don't appreciate me at all. So type 2s, when they're unresourceful or when they're unhealthy, they can tend to smother you with their love and care and concern. So if you have a type 2 in your team, and your type 2 has gone unresourceful, or they begin to feel that they're unappreciated, how do you help a type 2 to become resourceful again in your team? By showing that they are appreciated. Now type 2s, because they are so happy and they're so proud that they're able to fulfill everybody's individual needs, they tend to forget or ignore their own needs. But do they have needs? Yes. They have. Everybody has needs. So when a type 2 has keep on giving and giving and giving, and people around them begin to not show their 100% appreciation, they would then become unresourceful because this is where they feel that they are no longer appreciated. So how do you help a type 2 become resourceful again? By helping them to focus on their own needs. So what you do is, you take a type 2 out, help them to have a good time according to how they want it. And then tell them, you know, I really appreciate what you've done for the team. So this is how you make a type 2 feels appreciated again. And then they're all ready to love you in massive quantity again.